Imagine starting on a ground like this, then rising to become the only club to ever win the most competitive league without losing a single game, the only club awarded a golden trophy. This is the story of one of England's most iconic clubs.
In 1885, a Scottish mechanical engineer named David Danskin moved to London to find work at the Dial Square workshop. A massive football fan, he founded a club alongside Jack Humble and the former Nottingham Forest players, Fred Beardsley and Maurice Bates. Because Beardsley was a goalkeeper at Forest, he managed to get a set of red kits from his old club for the team to use in their first ever game. Most of the founding members were Scottish, and they named the team Dial Square. They played their first match on December 11, 1886, against the Wanderers and won 6-0. On Christmas Day, the club's name was changed to Royal Arsenal FC, meaning they only ever played one game as Dial Square. In those days, they were still an amateur side with no fixed home. They played at Plumstead Common, the Manor Ground, and the Invicta Ground, but they eventually returned to the Manor Ground because they couldn't afford the rent. Despite having no permanent stadium, they were successful on the pitch, winning the Kent Senior Cup, the London Charity Cup in 1890, and the London Senior Cup in 1891. Royal Arsenal entered the FA Cup for the first time in 1889. However, they soon faced a problem. Professional teams from the north were poaching their players. In 1891, after losing a match to Derby County, Arsenal lost two of their stars, who left to sign professional contracts with Derby. To stop this, Royal Arsenal turned professional in 1891. This angered the local amateur teams, and the London Football Association banned Arsenal from local competitions. For a while, they could only play friendlies and FA Cup games. They tried to set up a Southern League to rival the North, but it failed. Eventually, as other Southern clubs turned professional, the tension faded, and the club changed its name to Woolwich Arsenal in 1893. Arsenal joined the Football League in the second division, becoming the first Southern club to do so. This caused a split in the squad. Some players didn't want to be full-time professionals and wanted to keep their factory jobs. They formed a separate team called Royal Ordnance Factories FC, but it only lasted 3 years. Woolwich Arsenal spent 11 seasons in the second division. In 1903, under manager Henry Bradshaw, they signed goalkeeper Jimmy Ashcroft, England's first international keeper, and captain Jimmy Jackson. They earned promotion to the first division in the 1903-04 season. However, before the season started, Bradshaw left for rivals Fulham for more money. Arsenal struggled financially with low attendances and were forced to sell their best players, including Ashcroft, Tim Coleman, and Bert Freeman. The club nearly went bankrupt before being bought by a consortium led by Sir Henry Norris, who was also the Fulham chairman. He tried to merge Fulham and Arsenal, but the league blocked it. Because of the location issues in South London, Norris moved the club to Highbury in North London. Shortly after the move, they were relegated. In 1914, they officially changed the name to the Arsenal. After World War I, the First Division expanded from 20 to 22 teams in 1919. Although Arsenal had finished 6th in the Second Division in 1915, they were voted into the First Division ahead of Tottenham due to their long history in the league. In 1925, Norris appointed Herbert Chapman from Huddersfield. Chapman is arguably the most influential manager in English history. He modernized training, introduced physiotherapy, and added numbers to players' shirts in 1928. In 1933, he added the iconic white sleeves to the red kit and insisted the club be called Arsenal rather than the Arsenal. Following a 7-0 defeat to Newcastle in 1925, star player Charlie Buchan suggested a tactical change to the WM formation. Under Chapman, Arsenal reached the 1927 FA Cup final, losing to Cardiff before finally winning their first major trophy, the 1930 FA Cup, against Huddersfield. They won the league title in 1933, but tragedy struck on January 5, 1934, when Chapman died of pneumonia. The club continued his success. Joe Shaw took over and won the 1934 title, followed by George Allison, who led the team to a hat-trick of titles in 1935, another FA Cup in 1936, and the league again in 1938. When World War II broke out in 1939, Arsenal played at White Hart Lane as Highbury was used for the war effort. When football returned in 1946, Arsenal was struggling. They had lost 9 players to the war, and the Highbury stands were damaged. Assistant manager Tom Whittaker took over and won the league in 1947 and 1953. After Whittaker passed away, the club entered a 17-year dark period without silverware. In 1962, they hired Billy Wright, who led them to their European debut in 1964. Eventually, under owner Samuel Hillwood and later, his family members, manager Bertie Mee ended the drought. Arsenal won the Intercities Fairs Cup in 1970. In 1971, they became only the second club of the century to win the league and FA Cup double. A key player was Etta Kelly, who scored in the European final, the FA Cup final, and the league decider against Tottenham. In the late 70s, Terry Neal took the club to 3 straight FA Cup finals, winning the famous 5-minute final in 1979. However, the club struggled again through most of the 1980s. In 1986, after Alex Ferguson turned the job down, Arsenal appointed George Graham. He replaced aging players with academy products and smart signings like Lee Dixon, Nigel Winterburn, Steve Bold, David Rocastle, Alan Smith, Tony Adams, and Paul Merson. They won the League Cup in 1987. Then came the most dramatic finish in league history in 1989. Arsenal beat Liverpool at Anfield on the final day to snatch the title. In 1991, they signed Ian Wright for a record of £0.5 million. By 1993, they had won both the League Cup and FA Cup. Graham's tenure ended in 1995, followed by a brief stint under Bruce Rioch, who signed Dennis Bergkamp. In 1996, Arsène Wenger arrived from Japan. He revolutionized English football with new diets and French signings like Patrick Vieira, Nicolas Anelka, and Emmanuel Petit. In his second season, he won the double. They won a third double in 2001-2, scoring in every single game. The pinnacle was the 2003-04 season, where Arsenal won the Premier League unbeaten, the Invincibles. They were awarded a golden trophy for this achievement. Their talisman, Thierry Henry, became the club's greatest ever player, winning 4 golden boots. In 2006, Arsenal reached the Champions League final but lost to Barcelona after goalkeeper Jens Lehmann was sent off. That same year, they moved to the Emirates Stadium. The debt from the move forced the club to sell stars like Henry, leading to a 9-year trophy drought. This ended in 2014 with an FA Cup win, followed by 2 more in 2015 and 2017. Wenger finally left in 2018 after 22 years. After a short period under Unai Emery and Freddie Ljungberg, former captain Mikel Arteta was appointed in December 2019. Despite the pandemic and an 8th-place finish, he won the FA Cup in 2020. Arteta began a cultural reset, moving on senior players and building around young stars like Bukayo Saka, Emile Smith-Rowe, and Martin Dedegaard. After narrowly missing the top 4 in 2022, Arsenal emerged as serious title contenders in the 2020-23 season. Though they finished second to Manchester City, they returned to the Champions League. Today, with signings like Declan Rice, Arsenal has been transformed from a club in crisis back into one of the elite teams in world football.
Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. The next episode might just be about your favorite club. New episodes drop every Wednesday. Thank you.